Let's get some tips now on what one can do to improve one's financial literacy and save up for retirement. I'm joined by Funzani Mtembu, an independent economist. Funzani, appreciate your time today. But before we talk about the difficult stuff, let's talk about the simple stuff. How does one make it through January 2023? Possibly conversations or plans that people should have made many, many months ago.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me on the show. I think the conversation really needs to go as far as what is happening in the economy, right? Because what we know is that more than 50% of our population lives below poverty line. And what that means is that not a lot of people, majority of our population, does not actually have discretionary income to save and invest, right? And so if we were to look at historically what has been happening from last year, even throughout this year, we've noticed that there has been hikes in interest rates, there has been inflation going up, and so much of the population does not have enough income to actually save. So the conversation about how does one actually survive January of 2023 has to be elevated to that level of saying, okay, sure, what we have is the situation where we know that a lot of people want to spend, and enjoy their December. But also at the same time, there are other things that are happening that are beyond our control, which is actually economic decisions that are being made by the leaders of the country, right? And so going into January 2023, one probably has to pay higher installments on the cars, houses. It's no longer the same as last year's. So our personal financial decisions actually have to take those things into consideration. So when one considers or looks at their financial position, they have to look at how those decisions actually affect their budget and their monies for now, for the future, even throughout the years.
So maybe let's pick up from budgeting, the importance of budgeting, and how does one come up with a budget that is sound and allows them to have a little bit left over. So whatever it is that you're earning, we all have financial obligations that we have to take care of at the end of each month, end of each term, and so on. But some of us aren't as frugal as others, and we overspend. So talk to us about putting together a sound budget that can protect the little that you have.
Yeah, I think one of the most important thing is, of course, like investing and saving, right? But also at the same time is to consider the facts that I mentioned even earlier. It's important to make that financial budget, to see all the costs that you have on a month-to-month basis, and to be able to say, okay, what do I actually need to do that is a priority first, and ensuring that one does not necessarily live beyond their means, right? Because the cost of living is high, especially post-COVID-19. The cost of living is high, and a lot of us are under pressure, right? What we have seen is that there's also this culture of also consumering, right? Consumerism culture that we have in South Africa, where people are really influenced by others, be it on social media or through our communities. What we are seeing is actually people who are consuming. So we have that kind of an economy in South Africa, consuming economy. And so I think one of the things that we need to be cognizant of and be aware of is what are your own important, the actual important costs that you have to make sure that are covered, and how do you then ensure that there is some money left after all those costs are covered. There are conversations about having a second income stream. But the reality is that the unemployment rate in this country are so high, it's very difficult for anybody to actually have a second income stream. Yes, there are people who are privileged enough to actually make sure that they don't only rely on the salaries, because salaries are not even increasing with that much percentage, honestly, with that much margin, as compared to our expenses. And so there are conversations about having a second income stream. If you're privileged enough to actually ensure that you have that second income stream, do so by all means, right? But we also have to have a conversation about the fact that actually our country, majority of our country, live in impoverished position that they don't even have that first income, right? So those are conversations that can happen, in parallel. Both the conversation about budgeting and the importance of budgeting and saving and investing, but also the conversation about the reality of the socio-economic position of our country.
Now, not everybody's obviously in that position where they cannot save or budget. There are some people, as you suggest, that are fortunate to have a second or third income stream. There are people that receive large sums of money that we come across. What are the conversations that you would have with those people? How do you determine what is a sound investment? Again, dependent on your age. So you're a 25-year-old male, or you're a 35-year-old female, or you're a 50-year-old male, and you have a second or third income stream.
So one of the things that I would say is that it's very important to have a relationship with a financial advisor if you are in that position, right? It's very important to have a relationship with a financial advisor. Unfortunately, I'm not in a, I'm not certified to actually speak on the financial advisory part of things. But what I would say is that it's very important to have a relationship with your financial advisor because A, they would assist you with making sure that you have investments, you have your pension actually set up for the future, but to also have or actually have other ideas of how to actually make money outside of your just one salary, right? So it is important to have a relationship with financial, and there are various and vast outlets where one can actually find out information on unit trust, for instance. You can save from as less as 300, if I'm not mistaken, to about 500 per month, right? On a unit trust, or you can save a lump sum of about 1,000 rand. It depends, really. So investing in unit trust, savings as well, and just being knowledgeable about the kind of products that one can actually invest in. There are equities, there's cash, there's money markets, there are bonds that one can actually diversify, and there's also property as well. So one can actually diversify their portfolio of investing and saving to ensure that they are actually hedged against any negative impact our economy may have. So on a personal note, those are some of the things that one can actually look at. But also, it's always important to have a relationship with a financial advisor.
Now, Funzani, what sort of relationship should our children have with money? What are the conversations that we should be having with our kids today to obviously protect them from some of the challenges that we are facing as grown-ups?
I think one of the things is actually being content, right? Because I think because of the kind of consumerism culture that we have, we constantly want to buy, we constantly want to spend, we constantly feel like we lack, even when we actually may have enough to survive, to have the basics and whatnot. So it's important that we get to a point where you are okay with where you are at, right? Even though it is not the most favorable position, so that you can actually work on getting other things that can actually allow you to have extra income. Because sometimes what happens is that we tend to want to live up to the whole, having things that like very luxurious things, which sometimes isn't necessarily important, right? So I think making sure that we don't live or we don't spend beyond our means is very important, because what then that allows us to do is to actually look at some of the ways that we can actually make money than actually spending. So prioritizing, ensuring that you can in some way make money rather than spending would be more important.
And finally, Funzani, let's talk about stokvels, a simple mechanism that many of our mothers and sisters and certainly others in society use to save and make purchases for accumulation at the end of the year. How do we use that concept in our daily lives to protect ourselves or to start hedging and building some form of financial resource?
I think stokvels have good benefits. They can be very beneficial, especially in communities such as a community that I come from myself, where majority of the population does not necessarily have money, but in a way it does assist and sort of forces one to actually save up to whatever that they want to do at a later stage in the year. So stokvels are very imperative. I'm not sure about them being regulated, because I think it is important to have that space as a community that is safely for us to be able to actually save up money, to be able to afford a particular life, and actually pay for school fees and pay for uniforms and so forth. So stokvels, I'm actually a fan of stokvels, because they actually assist in communities that are very marginalized.
Funzani, I appreciate your time this afternoon. Funzani Mtembu, an independent economist, speaking to us about financial literacy and certainly financial management.